Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first edition of Ask the Expert. My name is Agustin, and I'm the General Manager of Block 71 Indonesia, and I'll be your host today. Block 71 is a global connector and a tech startup ecosystem builder initiated by an US enterprise in strategic partnership with corporation and government agency. In Indonesia, we partner with Innovation Factory, in Indonesian innovation arm of Salim Group to set up Block 71 Indonesia. One of our mission is to help accelerate tech startup growth by leveraging our initiative and programs. These initiatives include access to funding, market validation program, mentoring, incubation space, technology and talent access through the university connection. Last but not least, tech community events. We are present in 7 cities across the globe, namely Singapore, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, 2 in China, Suzhou, 3 in Indonesia, Jakarta, Bandung, Jogja, and up and coming one, Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City. Today is our first series of Ask the Expert. It is our new monthly initiative where we'll focus on certain hot topic and invite an expert to answer all of your questions live. And today we'll be discussing on the topic, managing the unexpected, how to prepare and survive a Black Swan with Chandra Firmanto, founder and managing partner of Indogen Capital. He has over 20 years of experience in investment banking industry, and some of Indogen Capital portfolio include GoWork, Hijab, Cofera, and Travelio. They also have a successful IPO exit, such as ClearBridge, a Singapore healthcare company, and as well as they invested in our previous alumni, Block 71 Singapore alumni, Space Mob, which was then acquired by WeWork. The next Ask the Expert series session will be held on next Wednesday, on 17th of June, with Mangsil Venture on the topic post-COVID-19, how should startups survive and prepare for the new normal? And the third topic will be on the week after, on Thursday, 24th of June, with Sequoia Capital and Vertex Venture, navigating the uncharted, how to thrive and excel during COVID-19. And that is all from me. Over to you, Widya.
Hello. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Widya. I'm the Hub Manager of Innovation Factory. Today, I'll be moderating today's session with Chandra Firmanto, a Managing Partner of Indogen Capital. So yeah, the start of this discussion was that I actually had this, I was reading a couple of articles about the effect of COVID-19, right? And how they were saying it's a Black Swan event. That means like an unexpected event with extreme consequences, and like this is how impacting everybody, not just the startup world. So I think it'll be a good discussion where I invite an expert like Chandra today to help share about it. Maybe we can start a bit about from you, Chandra, just sharing a bit about yourself, also maybe about what you do in Indogen Capital, and also a bit about your origin story. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So thank you, Innovation Factory and also Block 71 for the invitations. Mm-hmm. So it's an honor today actually to be here with all of you, mm-hmm. Maybe to share a bit. So I would not say that I'm an expert, but I'm in the industry. So I will try my best actually to answer your questions. And maybe I will share a bit about Indogen Capital. Mm-hmm. So very quickly, so I went to school at USC, worked for 2 years in Accenture in Los Angeles. Afterwards, I came back and then handled the family business. For the family business, I was deeply involved there. What we do is we are doing distributions for many products, Yamaha motorcycles, Dunlop tires, Unilever products, also Yili Dairy from China. And we have a JV with Ciputra for property development. We have a JV with Kompas Gramedia for Amaris Hotel Development, a small BPR and also multi-finance company as well. In total, we have about 3,500 employees and about 150 branches across Indonesia. And in 2015, actually, I handed over the operations to professionals. And then I started Indogen Capital end of 2016. And then we made our first investment in 2017. We have 7 people in our team, divided into a portfolio management team and also the deal sourcing team. And we are in the middle of raising second fund, have completed the first close already. For historical performance, we are a sector undertake with strong focus on the early stage startups on the Southeast Asia markets. We have made 18 investments across 6 countries. We have 3 exits already through IPO, M&A, and secondary. And I think our strength is actually the local know-how for Indonesian market. So we know really well, being entrepreneurs for 50 plus years, the combinations of experience between me and my partners. And we actually have experiences across various sectors, automotive, financials, and other consumers product as well. And the combined networks of our LPs and GPs actually span across Indonesia, including top, second, and third tier cities. So if you actually have a plan to bring any of your portfolio companies, or if you were startup founders and you would like to come to Indonesia someday, feel free to reach out to me, and you can reach out to Widya to ask about my contact and numbers and etc. Okay, I will hand over back to Widya.
Thank you, Chandra. Yeah, so basically today's discussion, we'll just have a brief discussion because before this event, we actually pulled the questions from all the attendees here prior. And yeah, so we have a couple of questions. We also pulled questions from the Facebook as well, or social media to see what are, and there are a lot of interesting discussion. Maybe just to give a brief start to our conversation, it's about like, what is the current landscape of the startup world, right? Post-COVID, well, during and post-COVID. And for yourself as an investor, what have you seen the impact of COVID-19 in your experience as a VC, as an investor, and also maybe in your portfolio? Yeah.
Sure. So before COVID, actually everything went really well. Everyone was having a good time, but again, we took it for granted, right? We thought that it's going to last forever, right? But turned out to be there's unfortunate circumstances happening with this COVID, right? So post-COVID, I think that there's changes as well, of course, in the landscape, but mostly to the opportunity, right? So the opportunity is shrinking, it's still there, but it's shrinking, right? So it's actually provide opportunities maybe to the well-performing startups. So the well-performing startups definitely are different. For each specific industry will be different, right? So if the case for, let's say, edutech, right now they are doing even better than before, right? For example, also for e-commerce, they are also doing better. But maybe for travel, and they are deeply impacted. And it's also have an effect on our portfolio companies as well. So about 30% of our portfolio companies actually affected. About 40% actually gain from the COVID-19 experience gain, and about another 30% actually have not much impact, I can say. So we actually had a call with each single one of them right away after the situation actually turned out to be pretty serious, right? So we evaluate their fundamentals first. So we look at their cash flow, we look at their the burn rate, right? Because we have to be very cautious. We want to have at least 12 months runway for each of the portfolio companies, right? And fortunately, we have been paying attention a lot to actually those numbers, even before we made our investments. Because we came from, I think, like traditional business. So our mindset is always about how to generate good revenue, and then eventually then you can turn your product or services into profitable business. So many of them actually, even though they're affected, actually I can say that they can navigate really well. But of course, in the beginning of the situation, it was like a bit difficult for us as well, right? For example, like for one of our portfolio companies, Travelio, actually they get affected a lot because what they do is they actually doing apartment rentals, right? The Airbnb business models, but with services. And actually the revenue dropped by about 30 to 40% initially. But we started to think about offering additional services also to gain revenue. And then from there, then actually we decided to offer deep cleaning for the apartment owners. That's the beginning. But the traction was not so great, okay, but not so great. Then eventually, then we moved to actually offering grocery shopping as well. Actually, the grocery shopping solution has been very successful. And actually, the revenue right now has returned back to normal and actually better than pre-COVID. So I think this is one of the good examples we can share to everyone that actually there is a way to navigate around the difficult situations, right?
So as you said that like about 30% of your portfolio are heavily are impacted, 40% actually gain, and the other 30% are not affected or not so much affected. Like for those 30% that are heavily impacted, right? Especially for example, your portfolio, Travelio, and they made all these changes and pivoting. Like, what was the experience of that pivoting? Like, how did the founder prepare themselves, or how did you as an investor advise them? Because I understand like pivoting, especially in a time like this, in a time of crisis, will be like it'll be a stressful situation. Like what was your experience about that? Because I feel like a lot of startups are pivoting, but they might be going like all over the place, and it's good to hear a success story, right?
Yes. It's actually easy to just listen to the success story, right? But you need to know the process behind it, right? So I'm really glad that you asked that questions. I have attended many seminars, but they never asked me these questions before.
Oh, really?
So basically, you have to go back to the drawing board, right? Even though with a startup that already like quite successful and quite as big as Travelio, right? But you have to go. So we list down what we have, and actually the reason why we get impacted, right? So we list down, we make a list first. Then from there, then we did a brainstorming sessions between different investors as well. So different investors chip in to give suggestions also to the startup founders. But at the end of the day, then you being the startup founders, you have to decide, right? So everyone trying to give ideas and etc. Right? This is what you have to do. That is what you have to do. But you have to go back and then see what you have and what you don't have, right? And whether it's worth it actually to make the jump. Because you need to know that, let's say, the most basic thing is you need to know about your cash flow and your burn rate. So at these difficult situations and then very uncertain, you don't want to actually to put more pressures on your cash flow, right? It's very basic. So you need to see what you have, you make the adjustment, you make the efficiency move needed. Then from there, then you see how to actually to gain something without actually sacrificing a lot. So at Travelio, back to the Travelio story, we realized that we have a pretty good numbers of users already from the apartment owners and also the people that actually doing the rentals, right? So we have a very good ecosystem going on already. So from there, then we think about how we actually leverage them to get something from them, right? At this situation. Then we decided maybe it's safer to try to offer deep cleaning at the beginning. We were thinking about deep cleaning and also with comparing that with the grocery shopping as well. But we realized that grocery shopping actually will need more efforts. So that's why we decided with the deep cleaning first. But after 2 weeks of launching, we realized that, the deep cleaning will not be enough. So that's why we immediately launched the grocery shopping. And for the preparations, we use whatever we have, especially in-house, right? So this is the one that we have. So we move many stuff actually to the different divisions. So before they were actually helping with the actually to bring apartments to be on board to Travelio, for example. And right now we ask them actually to find partnerships for the grocery shopping, right? To find suppliers as well. So that's what's the process actually happening behind the scene before we actually could launch. But the process took really fast, really swift. It took us only about 1.5 months actually to launch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really amazing. But kudos to the founders, not to me. I'm just being a commentator, right?
Okay, yeah, 1.5 months. That's a very quick reaction, I guess, because I think if some of the attendees does not have the context of what Travelio is, if I'm not wrong, you might know this better. Travelio is like a property management, a bit like Airbnb, but they actually manage the property itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's just a bit context and how they moved that. So I think, like as you said, the strategy was to attack the low-hanging fruit, which is like, which I think was a lot of other startups did as well, to attack the deep cleaning. But then now they pivot to grocery as well. That is an interesting one. And there's also the question, like, because Travelio, I guess, is a bigger startup, but like for ourselves, we actually more in the area of like early stage startup, so seed or pre-seed stage, because that's what we're dealing with. Just for those early stage startups, especially those who are bootstrapping, right? What is your advice for them during this period and also for the future? Because as you said, like you wanted a 12 months runway for at least like for the cash flow for them to be safe. But like, what about those who are actually struggling right now for the early ones? Yeah.
Yeah, for the founders that actually bootstrapping right now.
Yeah.
If you are not affected, I would suggest that this is the best time actually to find collaborations, because yeah, that's the best time, right? Because everyone is actually looking for collaborations. All the big names actually struggling as well, maybe in your industry, or maybe not struggling, but you can look for the big names that at least struggling, and then maybe doing collaborations to tap into their networks, right? So this is the best opportunity that probably will not come again. Okay, so make a good usage of this. But if you, for example, like affected, right? Actually, I just had a seminar yesterday. I just answered these questions. So
really?
I will use the examples, right? So one of the, like very early travel startups actually asked me, what should I do at this moment? So I will say that your time hasn't come yet, because the timing is everything, right? So timing for travel startups actually probably will come in September or December, because everyone here is bored to death, right? Me included, right? So once the the government allows us to travel, I think we will just take the risk and then we'll travel, right? Many of us, maybe not everyone, but for me, I'm a risk taker, so
yeah,
I will travel. so definitely there is a big opportunities. I think in the futures, in the near futures for travel startups. So what you can do right now is doing the preparations, make everything become as efficient as possible. So if possible, then maybe you have a zero burn rate if possible, right? But you can prepare by actually learning from the well-developed markets, or the markets that actually in better situation than us at this moment. For example, China. So China right now has opened up local travels, right? So you can learn a lot from their experiences, and you can look for opportunities that actually opening up in the market. So the same opportunities actually will open up for Indonesia as well, right? So for Southeast Asia as well. So you can actually use that as an example. You can prepare yourself to capture the opportunities. So don't wait until, let's say, the travel industry actually started to boom again, right? Because it will be too late for you. So you can do the preparation now with whatever that you have. Let's say if you still need, let's say you need revenue, or maybe you need cash flow, right? Additional cash flow. My suggestion is depends on whether you have a current investors or not, right? If you have current investors, then you can talk to your investors, then probably ask your investors for additional supports, and then you can prepare a plan using the examples that I just gave you, actually to pitch to them again to strengthen your cash flow. But if you're bootstrapping, most likely then you don't have much investment anyway. So guys, just hibernate. So don't do anything. Wait until the right timing. Then once the timing comes, then you can start again. Okay, but the best thing that you can do right now is to survive, because I think this situation actually will have opportunity for the startups that can survive. So the startup that can survive later on will have less competitions, because most people will just give up, right? Everyone will just give up. Okay, don't do it anymore. Oh, this is difficult. Startup is not, it's not fun anymore. There's no opportunity in startup. So let them go. It's fun. It's fine, right? Because 99% startups will fail, right? So better off they fail now, creating more spaces for everyone else that actually have better determination to be successful. Then eventually, then you will have the opportunities. And I'm a strong believer that there will be opportunities as well, because as you can see in the capital market, everything's still doing, they are still doing great, right? So still very bullish, because the pandemic right now is different than the pandemic in 1920s. The one in 1920s happened when the world I think was poor, right? It was even difficult just to find food for all the general populations. But right now, I think we are much more wealthier, right, than before. So there are lots of dry powder or liquidity in the market. If that, then most of the corporations, also like the big corporations, especially in the East Asia, they realize that they cannot just actually depends on China. So they're starting to think about Southeast Asia, right? Because Southeast Asia is actually going to have more opportunities in the future. So if, let's say, they have to come to Southeast Asia, then what they have to do is through M&A and collaborations. Why don't you seek the collaboration from now on, right? All the decision makers actually have time now, right, at their home, right? So you can reach out to them. Then probably they're more open up to actually have conversation with you, and then you can actually get collaborations even before everything return back to normal. So I will suggest for all of you, don't wait, act now. Try to reach out to the corporation that actually you think that will be able to become the best partners for you in the future, but you can do it now. You can connect to them. You can start building the relationship. Okay. Then from there, then there will be lots of opportunities. Like having like this kind of seminar and then inviting corporations for startup also will be beneficial for them. Most of our portfolio companies actually doing lots of activities like this, and then many of them actually score many major deals from the event.
Oh,
yeah.
That is good and positive to know. Yeah, I think you're quite right. This is a time to collaborate as well, and at least for these startups, like through these seminars and stuff like that, like where do you think like all startups can find connection right now, because everybody's stuck at home? And also like for yourself as well as an investor, are you actively looking for startups still, or what are you doing now? Yeah.
Yes, I think for VC, we are doing the same thing as well. We have to hunt for the good, well-performing startups as well. So what we do is we learn about the competition landscape reports. We look for the pandemic-proof sectors. So for us at Indogen right now, we are looking for the pandemic-proof sectors. From there, then we do a mapping of the competition landscape for each industry. Then we look at the leaders. Then we hunt the leaders. And most of the time, the leaders didn't even want to meet us. So same thing. So how to reach out to them? You have Google, you have LinkedIn, right? You have Facebook. So you can, I think there's no excuse right now. You can reach out to them and you'll be surprised. Most of the people that you try to reach out through LinkedIn actually will reply to you. And most of them are actually the CEO, the COO, right? The top level executives. They're more than happy to connect to you. But of course you have to do a very good introductions about what can you bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So startups also, the well-performing startups, they don't need money. So most of them actually will be reluctant if you just reach out to them and then say, hey, I'm a VC, I just want to invest in you. Yeah, well, what do you bring to the table, right? In our case, we are very fortunate that we are very local. So we can offer Indonesia, and that we can actually help you to come to Indonesia. We can help you to expand, connect to the business networks, etc., and then find traction for you. So we try to sell that to the startups as well, right? So I'm using myself as an example. Even as a VC, we have to back to the startups also, the well-performing startups, to let's have a call with us, okay? So it's definitely not, it will be a challenge for everyone. So not only for I think a new startup. So it's not an excuse actually. So you can reach out to anyone, anywhere at this moment, and then most of them are at home, right? So you cannot find better time than this.
Yeah, that is true as well. I think from our side, as we realize, especially as yeah, as in the Innovation Factory, we've been like having like a lot of like, as you said, a lot of seminars and like that. Like, it is true for everyone looking for investor or like just like for collaboration. You just send a request on LinkedIn and just like start a discussion there. It's very, very useful.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I think we have a question on the chat. It is more about the consumer behavior changes. So I think this maybe go back as well to the pivoting question, like what kind of lasting consumer behavior changes do you expect to see post-COVID? It would be great to get some color on what's happening on the ground. I guess they might not be from Indonesia, from Wesley Wong. And like, for example, I'm aware that Grab Express and Grab Mart are picking up in places as well in like Philippines. Like from your side as well, from your portfolio, do you see any changes in consumer behavior? And do you see it to be lasting post-COVID, right? Because the question now is that like everything is kind of changes, and now we're having this new term of the new normal. And how will that last, or will it be a lasting impact, or will it just be a temporary one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think the post-COVID situations will depends greatly on when we can find vaccine, right? So once we can find vaccine, then everything will return back to normal, right? But maybe it's about 3 years from now, right? So about 1 year to find the vaccine, another 1 year to adjust, right? And then 1 year, then maybe to return back to normal, right? So at least we'll take 3 years. So between these 3 years, definitely people will try to actually stay in to keep distance between each other, right? So there is no more hugging, shaking hands. That is, everyone will pay attention to the not to have a touch with or contact with anyone. So that would be the I think like the biggest change, right, in the society. For Indonesia, I think we usually just shake hands, so won't affect it much. But let's say for US that they're usually very used to group hug and everything, then that one definitely will be impacted. And for the consumer behaviors, I think it will be different for each industry. But for example, like the people right now have been accustomed actually to buy everything through online and then ship everything to their house. I think working habit will also change. For example, like my team right now is very used to work from home already. We are very comfortable with our setup. So we don't even like maybe think about returning back to the office, but having the office only maybe for to have an occasional meeting, right? For example, just some short meetings with very important clients, or maybe with the startups, right? So there'll be less physical meetings in the future for sure. So I think the biggest changes will depend on each industry, and you will be able to find them everywhere, but it will be connected to physical context. It will be less physical context than before, for sure.
Yeah, there's a follow-on question as well from Jennifer Chang, basically asking like, do you see any major trends for business and investment? And also there was a question on the Q&A as well, like what kind of startup will soar? I like that word, soar. Like what kind of startups will do well after this? Because as you said before at the beginning, like edutech is having a huge moment right now with the distant learning. And also health tech. Those are the one I see from our side as under Innovation Factory. But what about from your side, from the investor perspective?
I think, yes, I agree. Thank you, Jennifer, for the questions. So Jennifer is a great friend of mine from Hong Kong.
Ah, okay.
So basically, I agree with you. EduTech is one. And then after that, then health tech for sure. But we are also paying attention to entertainment. So gaming in particular. So I think gaming is going to be big because people are actually staying home at this moment. So some of them actually try to learn to play the online games as well, and then maybe get hooked up. Then eventually, once they return back to normal activities, they will still continue playing, right?
Yeah.
So for our portfolio company EFOS, for example, we received the report that actually they have seen an increase of about 700% of activities in online gaming.
Yeah.
So I think that is an industry that nobody is paying attention to, but is going to be big in the near future.
I completely agree with gaming. Even myself, I've gone into gaming now. That was not before the COVID, but during now, there's a lot of free time.
Yes.
I am one of, I learned that.
I think like some people maybe that feel that it's guilty to play games, they will do online learning, right? That's why
Yeah.
it'll be two sets of people. For example, I try to, instead of gaming, I try to pick up language study. So I try to learn to hone my Japanese language, right? So I'm picking up lessons on Duolingo, for example.
Yeah.
So that will be like, I think like depends on the individual. So some individuals will maybe to release the stress, they will pick up gaming. Some people maybe feel a bit guilty because they have more time, so they will pick up like something to improve their skills, right? That depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe baking as well, cooking, right? I've seen like there is a change of activities, right? Everyone's I think like becoming very good chef suddenly.
That is true as well. Yeah. Oh, there is one specific about entertainment that this is a bit out of the box for me as well when I look at it. Like, what do you think of investment on the new art or generation is collecting like sports card, not gaming?
Who asked that questions?
Budi Purnama Utama.
Right. So yeah, I'm a sports card collector actually.
Really?
So actually I started because during my high school time, I'm pretty old already. So during my high school time, it was the time when Michael Jordan actually was big, right? The Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So actually we started it as a hobby, and then everyone's saying that you're just wasting money collecting sports cards and etc. Right? So I continued when I was in US as well. Back then, still everyone's still talking to me that you are wasting money and etc. But actually, right now it's a very stable investment.
Really?
It's a very stable investment. You'll be surprised. The price of Michael Jordan rookie card, for example, has been steadily above the inflation rate, and the growth is actually better than gold. Seriously, nobody is paying attention to sports cards, and the thing about sports cards is the athletes will not live forever, right?
Yeah.
So that happened during the very unfortunate situation with Kobe Bryant. So when Kobe passed away, suddenly there was major jump in the price of all his cards, about 30 to 50% increase suddenly overnight. And it's actually have been very steady at this moment. So I'm not sure why as well. I think because the sports has been gaining popularity as well.
Yeah.
And then during this situation, nobody actually can broadcast any sporting events outside from UFC and maybe some baseball games in Korea and Taipei. But I think the sports fans have been like craving for more sports. So they've been looking into sports cards investment as well. Maybe they get bored, they have more money. This is also another proof that actually the liquidity is there because people bored to death. So they are looking back at sports cards for a form of entertainment, maybe. Okay, so they're investing more into sports cards, the autograph of the favorite players, the rising stars. So the price has been very steady. And I think Gary Vaynerchuk also mentioned about this in his podcast. So if anyone is interested, you can find on YouTube and then listen to him talking about sports cards because he is actually new in this industry, but yes, he is a strong believer now about the sports cards industry.
Oh, okay. This is interesting. I wouldn't think about that about sports card because I felt
Yes.
like that's yeah. What about you said that you Indogen invest in eForce, right? What do you think about the esports? Because esports is, I guess it is quite big in Indonesia.
Hmm?
I know like it has gained some traction before, but I guess with the lack of the event now, will it pick up again in the future?
Actually, for esports, they've been like steadily increasing, right? The interest for esports, right? So before COVID and post COVID, I think even before COVID, they've been like gaining popularity. There are several esports team already reaching unicorn status. Actually, in North America, the game is also very popular in Korea. Japan actually just lifted the ban for esports gaming in January 2020. Before it was considered to be illegal because it's categorized as gambling. You know that you can sell the weapons, you know, like gaining maybe money or golds in the games and sell it to the other players, right? So before Japanese government actually categorized online gaming as illegal, but they just lifted the ban actually in January 2020. So all the big gaming players like Sega, Namco, Bandai actually looking into this space as well. So I think they are just starting. So they will gain lots of popularity in the next 2 to 3 years, and I can see the progress actually has been very good as well. And then I think Innovation Factory also, Axton, right? Axton.
Yeah. we also have AKG games, yeah.
He's a big believer in
the Blizzard, yeah.
As well, right? Because he's one of the big supporters for eForce as well.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the big sponsors, early sponsors as well. So I can see more and more corporations actually learn and understand that actually they can go into the young generations by investing into esports. So there are lots of revenue stream for you that still wondering, and maybe this is a new information for you. There are lots of revenue stream that you can get from esports teams. Number one, you can manage the social media for the players. So you actually do the talent management. Number two, you can win prizes, and there are so many tournaments every year, and the price is actually getting bigger and bigger, not increased by maybe a bit, but 2x, 3x every year. And then sponsorships from big corporations and TV rights in the futures, right? Because the game is going to be broadcasted through televisions. You can sell membership as well. eForce actually just started to offer memberships, and in 1 month they have signed up 200,000 people already.
Wow. So the game ecosystem is quite robust, actually.
Yeah, the ecosystem is greasy. Like they have about 30 million people in the ecosystems because they actually operating not only in Indonesia but also all over Southeast Asia. So in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Philippines as well. Everywhere else is also very popular. So that's the reason why our team actually studied about this industry before and then brought up to me. I was skeptical as well because I've been told by my parents that don't play games, just wasting your time and money, right?
Yeah.
So I was very skeptical. So it took me a while before I actually become a strong believer in this industry.
Yeah, I think this is a good segue as well because there's a couple of questions for you as an investor, right? Because you have to be a strong believer before you invest in a company or an industry. Like, what kind of? I think this is a question from Virgorian. I might like. What should startups think about contacting a VC or investor, and what kind of question impresses you? Or like, how should they prepare? Because that is the part as well, like the preparation of talking to an investor. Like, what kind of metrics are you looking at?
It's actually for each VC will have different answer for this, right? But in general, at this moment, everyone is looking for the pandemic-proof sectors. Looking at pandemic-proof sectors. So if you are affected, let's say, tell me, for example, how are you going to recover post-COVID? What have you done during these situations? How do you prepare yourself to make yourself better at this moment, right? So that would be the criteria that we are trying to actually to analyze, right? For Indogen, number one, honestly, we are looking for exit path. I think the exit path is still very clear at this moment. You can look for IPO market, you can look for secondary, it definitely is still there. And then you can also look for M&A. There are lots of companies. We are actually an official mentor for JETRO, Japanese Trade Organization. And then we have been helping Japanese startups actually to expand to Indonesia. And then we have been helping Japanese corporations also to look for opportunities in Southeast Asia. And then they're actually very eager to look for opportunities in Southeast Asia. We just connected 2 companies actually to Japanese corporations. Then they are already talking about M&A to them now. So I think the M&A market is still there. So we just have to look for the opportunities, right? So going back to the questions, so we look for exit path first. So again, we look for the sectors. The industry have to be the hot industry. Then from there, then we look for the competition landscape reports to see whether you are the leaders or you are the challengers. So let's say if you are a leader, then you have to bring up the plan why you can remain the leaders. Let's say if you are a challenger, then you need to present to the investors how you are going to actually to become the winners, or maybe the market is actually will permit second winner or third winners, right? And then from there, then we look for the executions, right? So most of the times then at Indogen, we love to connect the startups to the corporation first, because it's easy to actually to be a good presenter and then presenting nicely to us. But sometimes also the founders may be not a good presenter and then they did poorly in the presentation. So we actually have agreed between partners that we will not pay attention much into that, and it's better to actually to connect them to corporations to see whether they can execute and then find tractions. So usually once we have a call with the startups, then we will tell them, hey, I can connect you to this company, for example, or I can connect you to my LPs. And then from there, then, of course, they will be very interested, right? It's a free traction, so why not, right? So we help them with the connections. Then we will analyze about the executions. So we actually do that. Then we look for the set of investors as well, because the success will be determined also by the set of investors, the previous investors, the same round of investors. So we look at the set of investors because it's going to play a major role as well. So I will suggest for the startups that just starting to pay attention to that. So you want to have a VC that actually have I think like good reports with the other VCs as well. You don't want to actually have VCs that actually just bring in money without helping you with your progress, because it's going because the other VCs will know.
Okay, so
they will pay attention to that.
So you're more of an active investor, I guess that's the way.
Yeah, we are not big fund, right? So we have to work really hard. We understand that. So that is our role, right?
Yeah.
So we work hard. We will help other VCs, portfolio companies, if they want to come to Indonesia. Then we play our role, helping with the tractions, and then also helping them to actually to prepare for exit. So right now, IDX, for example, is a very attractive market actually for exit, because the liquidity is there, the transaction is there, right? So even like we have been helping one of our portfolio companies, Pany. Before we were thinking that probably it's better to do M&A for them because they have lots of interest from Japan market, but we realized that the valuation may be not up to the founders' expectations. Now we advise him actually to look for IDX, because we have connected him actually just this morning to the consultant, the IP consultant, and then the IP consultant actually was very excited because they are fully profitable in the fintech sectors, and then they immediately saying that, oh, this is going to be huge, this is going to be big, because they also have a plan to enter. They already have a very strong presence in Philippines, and they also plan to enter Vietnam and Thailand as well. Okay, so it depends on your plan. So it depends on your plan. Probably you have to look for other exits scenario as well. So you don't play base your game on only one plan.
Yeah.
So I think that is the role of the investors as well, to give perspective to the founders.
That is very true. Like, I feel like as a startup founder as well, you are looking more than just investor, like also as they say here, I think the word mentoring and also like a guide to help them navigate this. We've been talking about a lot about like the startups who are like heavily impacted and also like a little bit. What about those who are not so impacted by the COVID? What do you suggest they do to help them kind of have a legs up in this, right? Because like I felt like, as you said, like once this is stopped, everyone goes running, right? So, like, and then like what about those who are not having, like what should they do now? Like what can they do to make sure that they win over the competition?
Yes, this is actually the best time for you if you are not impacted, right? So everyone is at home, all the decision makers, you can approach them easily. So you have to be very aggressive to set up a plan in the next, let's say, maybe in the past 2 months already, and then in the next 2 to 3 months, actually to approach corporations that actually will need your product or services. Okay, and then to try to close them down, maybe through seminars, events, speaking sessions, right? To invite them to join, right? And then you also have to use the chance actually to pitch and raise fund actually if you need it. If you don't need it, of course, I will not advise you to do it, right? Because maybe you can get better valuation afterwards.
Yeah.
But let's say if you need it, you can just pitch and you can just raise a bridging round or something like that. I think there's enough dry powder in the market, and everyone still want to invest, especially if you can prove that actually you are doing better during these situations, and then you can maintain the same level of growth post-COVID.
Yeah. That also answers the question, like, are VC still investing? I think they are still investing right now.
Yes. Right? Another thing that I need to warn is to not investing much into your technology at this moment. So because it's going to increase your burn rate. So even though you are doing well at this moment, I will suggest to find ways to increase your growth as much as possible, but maintaining your OPEX, right? Because I think post-COVID, everyone will look for company or startups that can increase, let's say if they do M&A, they want to see whether these startups actually can increase the profitability of the holding company, right? So they will not acquire startups that actually will in deep loss, then actually will contribute even more losses for the holding company. So this is the time actually to gain tractions, lowering OPEX, even though you are not affected much, right? And then eventually prove to your investors that you can actually be profitable.
Yeah. Oh, there's another question by Jennifer again. How do you think of VC as an asset class is going to be impacted going forward? Yeah.
Well, I think in the beginning of the COVID situations, everyone was like very conservative, right? You can see from the stock market, right? It immediately plunged. But sports cars investment, no. So please, after this, you can take a look on the sports cars investment. I'm very surprised as well. I don't know why. All the sports car collectors was looking for opportunities actually to scoop up, right? Other collectors' collections, right? But no, nobody is actually. Maybe because of the sports car collectors, the one that collecting right now actually not. They use excess income already, right? So they are not the pressures actually to sell. But let's say for VC, right? In the beginning, of course, affected, right? Most of the investors say that, oh, we want to take some time actually to reconsider, blah blah blah. So as a VC, it's better not to approach the investors during that time, right? Same for startup as well during the first 2 months. But right now, at this moment, I think it's starting to pick up again, right? So everyone has been returning back to normal. I know Jennifer from Hong Kong just opened up as well, right? Everything just returning back to normal, and then the situation right over there is pretty stable. Japan just open up again. Indonesia, whatever it takes, we will open up, right? Right.
that is the
Yeah.
passion. I'd like to call it.
Whatever it takes, right? We have to open up. I think developing countries that we don't have the luxury actually to stay to remain closed for a long period of time. So we have to open up. So from there, then actually the business is starting to pick up again. Then the interest from investors actually has been returning as well. But the stronger actually appetite actually comes from corporations, because corporations right now realizing that they need additional efforts, not only realize maybe depending on their current business, maybe it have to expand to the new sectors as well. So the company in a very good cash flow will set aside a small fund actually to look for opportunities to strengthening the core business, and also to look for new opportunities to actually to expand revenue. So they are looking for the area that actually can be good in the near future, in the next 7 to 10 years. So that's why we are very fortunate to be in Southeast Asia, because Southeast Asia have about 500 million population, has been steadily increasing in GDP for the last 10 years, and we have a very young median age of 28 years old, right, across all countries. And Indonesia have about half of Southeast Asia populations.
Yeah.
So we can see that the interest is returning back to normal, and the only thing that might slow down the process is just because we cannot have physical meeting. That's it. So once we can have physical meetings with the investors, I don't think it's going to be a challenge to raise fund if you are in the not impacted sectors, or maybe if you are performing really well at this moment, because there won't be lots of opportunities there won't be lots of competitors as well in the market. So the companies have to raise actually to collaborate with you. So you can start from now connecting to them, and maybe you can open up the conversations from now on.
I think there's a lot of question about Indogen in general, like about like what is your investment thesis, and also because what are you investing in, early stage, pre-seed, or just pre-A series, and also about like what are you looking for in terms of a startup character.
We invest in the pre-series, series A, or if the valuation still makes sense, in the series B as well. Our ticket size is ranging from $300K to $1 million. We are sector agnostic. We look for every sectors, but honestly, we are looking for the pandemic-proof sectors at this moment. Okay, and then the exit path has to be there. You're not very sure yet about your exit path, then I will help you to analyze as well. Feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
But I will know for certain when I look at the startups, and then I look at the business idea, whether there's actually a clear exit path or not.
Yeah. Okay. So you cited a couple of industries that you're looking at, gaming, one of them, edutech as well. Are there any other industry that you're focusing on right now? Because you said you're industry agnostic, but is there a specific?
We look for every sector though. We don't know. I mean, like, we are not experts in everything, right? So, like I mentioned before, I was skeptical about the gaming industry, right? So it took me a while to learn about it. So you need to have a very actually open mind, right? Actually in this industry, right? So I welcome anyone to actually to bring up to me why their industry is actually very sexy, very good. So we want to learn as well. So this is the part where I love about. I mean, like, I really love this work, right? This industry, because actually I'm learning every day. I'm learning from the startup founders as well. They teach me about their industry, about their businesses. Okay, so we looks like we know everything, but we are not. We don't know anything actually. So we love to learn, right? So I'm learning from the EFOS founders actually every day about the gaming industry. So it has been very good for us.
Okay, there's also a specific question. You said you're looking for a pre-series A, right? How about for startups who early stage who are still looking for product market fit? Do you think they should focus on traction on active users, or they should look for monetization? I think this is a chicken and egg kind of question, right? Like, and for you as an investor, what do you think is the most appropriate way, or like what do you think is?
Depends on the VC, right? So
Yeah.
some VC actually they try to invest early. So of course they will not wait until there is a tractions in terms of revenue, right? But in our case, we have to see the revenue is there before we actually can start investing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that answers the question. I think we have time for one or two questions. There was a question that was coming up from the RSVP form that I find quite interesting. It's about startups who have pivoted during this time. So the question was, it's quite like, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a startup company who have found a problem and create a solution to obtain the problem within our industry. So they found a way to solve a new problem. This is a bit shifted from their core technology, right? Even though it is a bit related, now they are facing the new phase, which is the new normal. And then the solution that they have created before during the COVID that made that kind of like bear them through the COVID is not as profitable as it is during the pandemic. Should we continue market the new solution or start preparing the core technology? Like it's a question as well. Like, so what do you think?
I think it depends on your cash flow. Cash flow is number one, right? So how is the situation of your cash flow? I need to know before I can answer that questions. So let's say your cash flow is your runway is still very long, and then you believe that once you have actually shift to this new technology, then actually you can bring better revenue, right? Why not, right? You can do small trial first. You can try this because this is just like proving your hypothesis, right? So you need to have a hypothesis, and then you try to prove it whether it's right or wrong, right? So you will not actually need to allocate like major resources to prove whether your theory is right or not. So I would suggest for a quick trial to see whether companies actually want to pay for your product or services, right? And then if you can get the proof, then and then you have enough runway, then you can execute. But you can start executing. But let's say if you don't have enough runway anymore, right? So I will suggest the best way is actually to survive at this moment. Okay. Okay. So you don't look for additional investment, especially if you cannot persuade your current investors actually to keep investing in you, right? So so it's better to survive, because once you have survived, then there'll be probably you can look for other opportunities as well for your startups, right? So, but of course, I welcome you actually to maybe after this call to have another call, so I can give you better advice, because right now it's very general. So yeah. I cannot give better. I feel like a better answer for this. But in general, you have to go back to your fundamentals. You have to look at your cash flow, what you have, your AR situations, and then depends on your set of investors. Then you can propose and pitch to them. I just help Japanese startups actually thinking about expanding the product and services to Indonesia, but with only 4 months runway left.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I said to him, well, number one, you have to develop a plan about why do you need to go to Indonesia? Why don't you just do it in Japan? Because the reason why he's interested in Indonesia, because what he offers is actually is an edutech where you can actually learn Japanese by speaking with the local people. Okay, so it's quite interesting. You can communicate every day with the local people, honing your Japanese skills. So,
okay.
I'm learning Japanese as well. So, I find I find it to be interesting, right? So I told him that you have to collaborate with the language institutes, right? So I can connect you to the language institutes from Indonesia, the universities. Then from there, then you actually don't have to invest much. But again, with 4 months runway, nothing you can do, right? Yeah. Even if you want to raise a new fund afterwards, once you have proven that your your thesis actually correct, where that's actually it's good to expand to Indonesia now or Singapore, you don't have much runway left, right? So number one is we help him to set up the plan, the business plan. Then after that, then he pitched back to his current investors. Then the current investors decided, okay, we want to support you again. Then he got the 18 months runway from the current investors. Then we help him to enter Indonesia market and then find collaborations to the universities. And we actually just signed up 2 collaborations with 2 universities in the last 3 days.
Oh wow!
Yeah, yeah. We just help with the connections, but the founder is the one that doing everything.
Yeah, that is interesting. As you said, like the first key for this time is like to survive first, and then like make a plan, then talk to your investors again before you launch it again. Because as you said, like you need to have a longer runway if you make that big of a plan to move, like to enter the Indonesian market, right? Mm-hmm. So that is interesting. Yeah, so we have a couple of questions again in the Q&A. There is maybe if we can go with Stephanus. Titus Wijaja, like, hi, Pak Chandra. My question is, what is your opinion why is not many Indonesian startups can do IPO to other countries, such as compared with China? Yeah. Hello? I think it froze. Hello? I think Pak Chandra is froze right now. I think we'll wait for him to get back. But yeah, guys, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to go to the Q&A section and you can just type in. Then I can see all the questions to ask him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I got disconnected.
No worries, no worries. I think we can pick up the question again. Yeah, so yeah, the question was about like why is not many Indonesian startups can do IPO to other countries as compared US compared with China. Yeah.
Okay, it depends on the valuation that you want to get. Mm-hmm. There will be upsides about doing IPO in Singapore, let's say, or in Indonesia, or maybe in China, or maybe in US. It will be different, right? So of course, if you want to, for example, like Gojek, you want to do a big IPO with a big valuation, then you don't have anywhere else to go but US, right? But it will be difficult in terms of the preparations, the auditing process, and everything, right? Will take times. Maybe timeline will be 1.5 years. Okay. But let's say you want to have a quick exit, right? For example, you just want to have an exit of, let's say, 70, 80 millions of a market cap. You can do it in Indonesia for 6 months, and only in Indonesia actually. This is actually not legal, but there's a way of doing it. The founders actually can exit.
Okay.
Gradually, slowly, but only in Indonesia market through nominee. So this is the kind of advices that we give to the founders. Depends on what he needs, right? What he or she needs, right? So Singapore market is interesting as well, but unfortunately at this moment that usually the valuation in SGX is a bit higher, about 20-30% higher than Indonesian market, but the liquidity is not there at this moment.
Yeah,
there is better liquidity in IDX at this moment. So if you want to have a good liquidity, then you can actually being listed faster, then you can come to Indonesian market. It will take about 6 to 8 months actually to be listed.
Yeah, I think IDX also have a lot of initiative of taking startups to IPO, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah. I think you're still on mute, Chandra.
Okay, so there's an options of going to the developmental board. So the developmental board actually just a name. If you are in that board, actually there's no difference than the regular board. And I think like Indonesians investors actually is still very fascinated with the tech startups. So they actually willing to pay premium even though you're actually going IPO at loss.
Oh yeah, that's the risk of going IPO.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do agree with your statement that like SGX might be better for you valuation wise, but in terms of liquidity, if you want to exit, it won't be a good idea.
As for being going listed in China, I think it's the money is the liquidity and the valuation is definitely there. But maybe if you are from Southeast Asia, I haven't seen like much success story actually going listing in China at this moment for Southeast Asia. For Nasdaq we have C, right? Actually have been very successful. The market cap keep increasing every day, so we can see there's a success story behind it already.
How about a domestic success story? Because personally for me, I haven't been aware of one. Maybe because I'm just entering the startup as well. Like, is there a domestic success story? The startup that launched in the IDX?
Yeah, there is a cashless, right? Recently just launched.
Oh yeah.
And then you can see that all the investors not really understanding about the business, but they're willing to bet on them.
That's
yeah,
true.
the price has remained quite stable after IPO. So you can see that even though they are still losing money, and then many people actually don't really understand what they do, but still they're willing to invest.
That's true. Okay, I think we have one last question, maybe just for you as well. Oh, there's a question from Jennifer to me before, like, am I entering the VC world and investing myself? Not so much the VC world, but I am a bit familiar of the investment world because I was working as an investment analyst before. But yeah, I do agree we need more female investors in our ranks. Yeah. So maybe just a last question for you, Chandra. Like, what do you think will happen in the new normal? Like now in the next couple of months? Like, what is your prediction personally, or maybe as like Indogen Capital?
I'm actually still worried about the second wave, though.
Okay.
So I believe that the second wave will happen, but not as bad as probably we imagine, right? We still can control it, maintain it, right? But will affect the market again a bit. Then afterwards, then probably there's a better improvement in terms of social distancing, and then looking for ourselves actually to keep ourselves become more safe, right? And then probably there's a development in the drug development, right, to cure the disease, right? Then eventually then it will be better, of course. But I think June, July is still a bit risky for Indonesia. I'm just talking about Indonesia, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to scare off the foreign.
Yeah, I think there are a couple who are not from Indonesia, but yeah.
Just for Indonesia, because I think we haven't done much actually in terms of fighting the COVID. We haven't done enough, right? Outside from staying at home for many people, but in general, the people actually not doing much. So, but surprisingly, that the situation not as bad as we thought, right, initially.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think there will be a second wave, but the second wave will not be very bad.
Yeah, that is my hope as well, because the concerns that we're opening.
I hope I'm wrong. Okay, I hope I'm wrong. Definitely.
I think we're all hope that we're all a little bit wrong, because I think everyone feels the same concern about like the opening up of the economy. But then, as you said before, for a developing economy, we don't have the luxury of keeping it closed for.
Correct. But for the East Asia market, for example, you can look at Taiwan, you can look at China. They actually have managed really well. Even until today, I don't think there's major risk there. Japan as well. So hopefully they open up the country so we can travel there.
That is true. I do wish I can travel now. Okay. Well, thank you, Chandra, for your time today. I think we're closing in
Thank you very much.
With an hour session. It was a very interesting discussion. I definitely learned a lot. So I hope that everyone who watched this as well have learned a lot. Anyway, this is also broadcasted on Facebook Live, right, on our Black Swan Jakarta. And so you can rewatch it again and you can share it.
And I'm sorry if I haven't been able to answer questions, because I've seen that somebody actually sent me privately.
Oh, yeah.
But feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn, and then I will try to answer your questions from there. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that is good to know. Yeah, you can reach Chandra through LinkedIn, or you can also reach me as well, and we can help you the introduction in case you want. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. No, it's almost 5:30, so have a good end of the day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.